Illinois basketball. Let's talk about how we beat those Badgers.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. I know it's a struggle, especially right now with Illinois struggling as much as they have on the court. And we just got the Morez Johnson Jr. news off the court. A bunch of you in the comment section saying, hey, you might be tapping out on the rest of this Illinois season. I just want to say those of you who are not tapping out, those of you who have been my everydayers, joining me every single day for this Illini content, I do appreciate you guys for sticking around. I can't quit even if I wanted to. I love this team too much, and there's just always so much to talk about. So I can't help it. I bleed blue and orange, and I'm going to follow us all the way through this season. And by the time this season comes to a close, it'll be ready to talk about football, the spring game, and the off season, especially on the basketball side, is going to certainly become very interesting, I think, this upcoming offseason. So that's something I'm looking forward to, and I'll be providing you daily coverage of the Illini right here on this channel. So make sure you've hit that like button and you're subscribed. Okay, so Tuesday night, Illinois plays Wisconsin. I believe it's at 7:30 Central. It's at the Kohl Center. And Illinois has a pretty decent history, recent history of playing Wisconsin. I believe they're at 9 wins in a row now against their rivals up north. But this year, well, right now in particular, things feel a little bit different. Wisconsin is arguably the hottest team in the Big Ten Conference. They've won something like 12 of 14 since the December matchup between Illinois and the Badgers. And, that team is a lot different than the team that we're going to be witnessing on Tuesday night. Wisconsin right now is battling for a Big Ten championship. And if you had told me in December that one of these teams was going to be battling for a Big Ten championship and the other one was going to be essentially just struggling for 500 in the conference and fighting for a tournament bid, I would have assumed Illinois was going to be the one that's battling for a Big Ten championship. But that's just not how the cards were all played out this season. But I'm not going to sit here and complain. That's just, basketball and sports in general are fluid. And you just never know. In particular, if you're an Illinois fan, then you know that, sometimes crazy things happen. And when you're expected to win, things don't work out. And when you're expecting to lose, they just might. And so who knows what's going to happen Tuesday night? Right now, the spread hasn't been released for this game. And so I can't really judge the game by that. I'm going to assume Wisconsin's favored, especially, again, at the Kohl Center. That place is going to be rocking. Okay, us Illinois fans, we love to hold over the fact that we've won 9 straight games against the Wisconsin Badgers. And if you don't think that student section and that crowd is going to be rowdy, knowing that statistic, and they want to end that losing streak and also, again, compete for this Big Ten championship. Of all the teams that are contending for that championship, Wisconsin has the easiest schedule. And so they know they've got to win, in particular, all their home games. And Illinois might be one of their tougher games left on the season. So how does Illinois win this game? A game that I think most people, and unfortunately a lot of their own fan base, is counting them out on. The first adjustment, it's going to be tough to do a preview show because we don't know what the starting lineup is going to look like anymore. Obviously, at some point in the midday Monday, Brad Underwood disclosed that Morez Johnson broke his wrist in that game against the Michigan State Spartans. And Morez was a huge part of this rotation as of late. He may not have played all that much minutes early in the season, but he was one of the key players to this team, at least over the last month and a half. And he had taken over a starter spot and looked like Morez was going to take claim to that starter spot, not just for this season, but essentially for the next 3-4 years. That number 4 spot was going to be Morez Johnson, University of Illinois, for the rest of his career. But at least for the end of this season, there's going to be somebody else there. And who is that somebody else? Is it going to be Will Riley? Is it going to be Trey White? Is Ben Hummerkaus going to be starting at the 4 again? There's a lot of questions to be had. And, it's a game, it's a must win. in a lot of sense because Illinois plays Duke on Saturday. And Illinois coming off of a loss against Michigan State last Saturday. And if they lose Tuesday night against the Wisconsin Badgers, more than likely you're going to be a pretty big underdog against Duke on Saturday night. You're looking at 3 consecutive losses. And, I have to say this very carefully, but this Illinois fan base is a very fickle bunch, a very emotional bunch. And if you thought things were bad after that Spartans loss, imagine what this fan base is going to look like after 3 straight losses. If you thought the animosity, the aggressiveness towards Brad Underwood was bad after 1 loss, imagine what it's going to be like after 3 straight losses. So, must win, in my opinion, at least against Wisconsin. It's a team that's very good, but in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me a lot of the Illini, in the sense where Wisconsin is certainly much more consistent offensively, but they're very much geared towards their offense. They put on an absolute performance at Mackey on Saturday, beating Purdue. I believe they scored something like 58 points just in the second half, and Purdue simply just could not stop them. And Wisconsin, again, very much like what Illinois is trying to build with Brad Underwood. Anytime they put 5 guys on the court, all 5 of them can shoot. All 5 of them can score. All 5 of them can hit 3-pointers. And that's kind of what makes that offense so dangerous right now. But with Morez Johnson out, how does Illinois counter that? I'll tell you one thing. I've had this conversation now multiple times after this, the post-game show against the Spartans, where I talked about our need for Trey White. And I know there's another contingent out there who says, hey, Trey can't shoot the 3. And so he might not be as valuable as having those minutes go to Will Riley and go to Jake Davis, who I've always been a very big fan of. But take a look at the previous game in December between Illinois and the Badgers. Trey White had his best game of the season in that game. He had 23 points, I believe 8 rebounds, 6 of 8 shooting. Trey White's the type of player when he's playing at his best. Now, granted, this is not all the time. I'm granting you that. But when he does, he gets points the hard way. Like, you don't have to necessarily run an offense through him. He's a great transition player. He can attack the rim, which, by the way, right now, this Illinois team needs easy buckets. They need a guy who can go in there and just, you can count on 2 points, because we don't have that. Right now, this team is very insecure. And what do I mean by that? I kind of alluded to it in a previous episode, but I'll get to that in a second. But I really think we need a Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn and a Trey White game at this point. Especially with Morez out, Illinois was already essentially playing 6 guys. And I'm telling you, I don't care how young they are. This is not an excuse. This is common sense. This is just logic, okay? Michigan State played 11 guys. They were just cycling through guys like it was a hockey game. Illinois needs to expand that rotation again. Okay, this was supposed to be the most talented team that Illinois ever was putting on the court. Now, that's proved not to be the case, but I know some of you disagree with me. You've told me in the comment section. I still think there's a lot of talented players on this basketball team. Trey White, Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn being 2 of them. Dre, in particular, I know Brad talked about he should have played in more against Michigan State. I don't think he's going to make that mistake again. So I'm not as worried about not seeing Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn on Tuesday night against Wisconsin. Trey White's the one I'm worried about, because I think, as I mentioned on Sunday's episode, I think Trey White's a good college basketball player. He is exactly who Brad Underwood recruited to come to Illinois. We need a guy right now who will crash the boards and can get you easy buckets. Especially, again, look, if Trey White struggles in that first half, which he very well might, then we can go to a different option, right? We have talented players on this basketball team, but to not even give him an opportunity to step on the court against the team he had his best game of the season against, I think would be incredibly irresponsible of Brad Underwood. I talk about how Trey White might play in that first half. Is his confidence shot? I'm going to be honest, guys. Again, I alluded to this in an earlier episode. Ben Hummerkaus on Sunday performed at a church, or made a speech, I guess, at a church, and his words were along the lines of, "I know a lot of people out there don't like me right now." And while I'm not making a judgment towards what he said or where he said it, right? This was a private moment, and I kind of don't like that it even got leaked out to the social medias and media. But let's be honest, a lot of us have already seen it now. This is not a religious conversation that I'm having whatsoever. Like I know Ben is a man of faith, and I applaud him for it. And that's not what I'm commenting on. What I'm commenting on is his word usage. And if I'm Brad Underwood, I'm telling you, I hear the guy I'm playing, 30 minutes a game now, knowing that every time he's on the court, that the crowd, his fan base, thinks he's going to miss the shot. If you don't think that causes some sort of lack of confidence, some insecurity when you're on the basketball court, then I don't know what to tell you. And Ben is supposed to be a big cog on this team. Now, obviously, Brad misfired in how big of a cog he could be on this team. I think Brad had planned for Ben to be like the third best player on this basketball team. He's clearly not that. But I personally still think he could be a valuable role player. He could be on a championship team. He could be a guy who comes in, gives you 15 to 17 minutes a game, gives you spot up 3-point shooting. Right now, he's struggling because he knows he's not living up to expectations. And he's clearly not. But also, when I'm referring back to that Wisconsin game in December, Ben Hummerkaus actually had a very sound defensive game that day, if you recall. I think we're going to need Ben. I think we're going to need Trey White. But Brad's going to have to change things around, because right now, I don't remember the last time Illinois played Wisconsin, and I had a feeling of being not optimistic on coming out with a victory. Illinois just had Wisconsin's number as of late, and we've been very successful against them. But right now, it's Wisconsin with all the momentum in the world. And I think on Tuesday night, you guys are going to see an absolute show from Wisconsin. But you can also I can see a scenario where you see a show from Illinois too. Brad Underwood, for all his faults, when people count him out, when people cross him off, he performs and his teams perform. And so maybe this is silly of me, but I'm kind of banking on that. I've thought about this since Saturday. I thought the Badgers would have Illinois' number, but strictly because of the way this season has played out, I think Illinois wins on Tuesday night. This may be ridiculous. This may be silly of me to say, but I've had these hunches before, right? My everydayers in here know. Against Nebraska, I was like, I don't have a very good feeling about this game. And we ended up losing. The USC, same thing. Right now, I'm kind of at the opposite end. I feel like everyone has already counted Illinois out against Wisconsin. And I understand why. Wisconsin's a very good basketball team. The difference between Wisconsin and Illinois is Wisconsin plays a lot of veterans on that team. Wisconsin's kind of a version of what Brad Underwood used to build, right? Tonje, I believe, is 24 years old. Blackwell, I believe, is 21 years old. Like, they're older players. It's an older roster going up against what I think is a more talented roster in Illinois, but definitely more youthful, definitely more raw. What happens on Tuesday night? I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game. Regardless, I think the Illini can pull it off. I don't know what your guys' predictions are. And regardless of what happens, you guys know I'm going to be right here immediately after the game. So make sure you've hit that like button, you've hit that subscribe button so that you're notified immediately after that last buzzer. And hopefully we get to celebrate together, because I think this fan base needs it. But if not, if we must, we will have another therapy session on Tuesday night. This is the message from sponsor Intuit, TurboTax. Taxes were dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. Now, Taxes is easily uploading your forms into a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation. An expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed. All while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now, this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Back again. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got content for you every single day. We also bring in content creators from other teams, especially on game day, to give us a preview of what that team looks like. And today is no different. I get to bring on my good friend, Rajeev from the Bucky Report and Locked On Badgers. Rajeev, thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate the time, Sunny. Yeah, we're looking forward to this game, man. This is going to be a fun one, something that we both of our teams really need. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I feel like both teams are on different trajectories right now. Wisconsin Badgers fans are like feeling high, especially after that win against Purdue, and Illinois right now just seems to be reeling. Not only did they suffer one of their worst losses, at least it felt like it, against Michigan State on Saturday, but then you had that Terrence Shannon Jr. fiasco, upside down banner. Morez Johnson all of a sudden is no longer probably playing the rest of the season, and it's just like, a lot of us are hoping the season is over, whereas the Badgers fans are now like, hey, wait, we can win the Big Ten Conference. So let me ask you right off the bat, Rajeev, can the Wisconsin Badgers win the Big Ten Conference this year?
You better believe they can. Will they? I don't think so, only because Michigan, I was really hoping Michigan would have lost yesterday, but that did not happen. So, we're 2 games back with 6 to play. We do have, of the 4 of the contender schedules, I think ours is the most favorable. We end the season at Minnesota and Penn State at home. Our toughest game is going to be at Michigan State, and then tomorrow's game hosting Illinois. So, yeah, I think we can. We're obviously on a real high right now. If our defense can hold up and our offense can keep performing the way that we have, yeah, I think we can get there. But we are going to need help. Obviously, Michigan State played twice. Really could use Michigan losing both of those, and then I think we'll be all right.
I feel like a lot of Locked On Illini fans are getting tired of me talking about this Badgers offense, but I said it after the game. Watching Wisconsin at Purdue on Saturday, that was one of the best just team performances I've seen from the entire conference on Saturday. And, I've been hyping up this Badgers offense. It's, insanely efficient, but can you give us kind of a cliff notes of what Illinois fans are going to be seeing on Tuesday night?
Yeah, that performance at Purdue was absolutely insane. Almost 1.5 points per possession, which is unreal. We only missed 2 2-point field goals. The one thing that you're going to see is a 9-man rotation where every single guy can shoot the 3 with fairly decent success. One of our worst 3-point shooters this season is actually on paper our best. Max Klesman is having not the greatest season shooting from 3, but everyone else is shooting a really good percentage, which is great to see. We spread the floor a lot. Last year, guys like Tyler Wall, we couldn't really spread the floor as much. Carter Gilmore wasn't shooting 3-pointers. Now they all are. And when you have 2 7-footers who can shoot the 3 with really good regularity and can score in the post, that's where we really have we have a lot of options. In addition to that, we've got John Blackwell and John Tonje, 2 guys who are really, really creative. Tonje, most certainly the guy, he can shoot the 3. He's shooting up like maybe 38% from 3, and he can drive, get fouled a lot, create baskets at the rim. We'll see a lot of the guards penetrate and kick to the corners where we get these guys like Kamari McGee and Jack Janicki firing from the corners. We can shoot and score from anywhere, and it's up tempo. Unlike old Wisconsin teams that were not up tempo, we run. We try to get fast break points. We try to keep the pace going, which is so different from what we've seen in the past. That's what Kirk Penny has brought to this team and other assistant coaches. Yeah, it's a totally new look Wisconsin offense, but we are incredibly efficient.
Yeah, I mean, the defense struggles a little bit, but you brought up his name, John Tonje. Like, what a find he was by Greg Gard. He started off the season as one of the best players in the entire country. Then I think Big Ten season hit, and he took a little slight dip in his production. But as of late, again, he's looking like he's going to become an all Big Ten player. Can you give us a little scouting report on Tonje?
Yeah, look, John Tonje's been fantastic. The guy is fearless, right? He puts the ball on the deck, and he's very good at sort of knifing through defenses to try to create offense at the rim. Like I said, he's one of the best free throw shooters in the country, as is our team, and he gets to the foul line quite a bit. And he's only improved by his three-point shooting. Now, at times, Tonje will sometimes take a rush three-pointer, which we wish, you don't need to really take that. But he's trying to create offense. That little dip that he had was basically everyone's like, okay, you stop Tonje, you can stop the Badgers. So people were really trying to do whatever they could to stop him. He likes to go to his right, shutting him down, going to his right is always going to help you there. But then we'll just give it to someone else. But Tonje really, he can score multiple ways. His jump shooting is fantastic. His driving to the basket is fantastic. He's got good vision. He can pass out of there. And honestly, he's got that X factor of just being a clutch kind of killer shooter. The guy will absolutely shoot when it's necessary, and he doesn't just shoot, he makes it, and he's lethal. And that's always what you need, right? You're going to be in those tough games in this conference on the road and at home where you've got to just have that guy with the killer instinct, and that's what Tonje has. And he can really read a game and figure out how he can sort of work his way in. He didn't score in one game at USC. Next game he came back and he scored another 30. Like he's just really efficient, and he's really creative.
And it's nice. Isn't he like 24 years old?
Yeah,
like,
he's got a lot of experience. He's been in 3 schools.
Having a veteran in modern day college basketball is such a it's a hack, I feel like. And you can see, as you said, he knows the game of basketball. He's done this before, whereas he's played at this level for so long at this point that he's like, I look at this matchup on Tuesday night as being Kasparis and Will against Blackwell and Tonje. And your guys are the ones that have experience on your side. And so that's why, let's be honest, Illinois won 9 in a row, I believe, in this series. But again, you have all the momentum coming in. And that Kohl Center, I know Tuesday night, everyone knows that streak. That place is going to be rocking. And with the fact that, the Badgers have a chance of winning the conference, Illinois looks wounded at the moment. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for Wisconsin. And a great opportunity for a guy who I like to take a dig at every now and then, but I've been giving his flowers since Saturday. And that's Greg Gard. I mean, in my opinion, right now, if the season ended today, he is my Big Ten Coach of the Year. What he's pulled off with this basketball team after losing Storr and Chucky Hepburn, everyone thought this team would take a step back, maybe even be in the bottom half of the Big Ten. And here they are, going into the last couple of weeks in contention for the conference. Tell me a little bit about Gard's season.
Yeah, it's funny. When we talked earlier in the season, we talked about how Greg Gard, the fan base is pretty split on Gard, right? A lot of people were ready for him to go. He doesn't have the best record in the NCAA tournament, certainly not to Bo Ryan's sort of historic record. But he evolved. He evolved and he adapted. And that's the one thing that everyone is agreeing now about Greg Gard. We were a slow offense. He's turned it up a notch, right? And we're doing things we weren't doing in the past. He's using the athletes that we have in ways that he wasn't before. And the culture in the locker room seems to be really good. This team plays really hard for each other. And, talking to players, talking to some people around the players, it's a really good atmosphere, really good culture. And he understands that he needed to change. Otherwise, he wasn't going to be in this job much longer. And all he's done is that. All he's done is adapt. And it's so fun to watch. Like a Wisconsin team routinely scoring over 90 points is something that I have never imagined ever. And now we're just firing up threes left and right. Every time we're playing a team and I'm talking to someone from the opposing team, they're like, gosh, every one of your guys can shoot the three and they're good at it. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fun. If you leave anyone open on the three, you're toast. And it's great, man. And Greg Gard deserves a ton of credit. He brought in Kirk Penny, who's an old Badger from back in the late 90s, early 2000s from New Zealand. He's bringing a much more quick style of offense. And all these things together just show that he recognized there was an issue. He recognized that he was on the hot seat, and he made the adjustments necessary. And hopefully we can win in March. That's another big hurdle for him. Like Big Ten regular season means a lot, and he's doing a great job. But hopefully we don't get bounced early in the tournament.
Rajeev, before I let you go, what are your feelings for Tuesday night?
I'm feeling really good about this. I'll tell you what, we're starting a 3-game homestand, and it's important. So Oregon, Illinois, and Washington. I am most worried about this game because, as you know, 9 in a row, Yakachonis, Ivicic is going to create a lot of problems for us. We don't defend bigs that well. He can also stretch the floor. He shoots like 4 to 5 threes a game. Like that's not good for us. So I'm really hoping that our offense can show up. But again, we've got so many weapons that even if Blackwell's on an off night or Tonje's out having an off night, we've got enough people that we should be able to get it done. And I think the streak will end on Tuesday night.
All right, Rajeev, let the folks know one more time where they can find your work.
Yeah, so the Bucky Report on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, Locked On Badgers as well, also on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Rajeev, thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, and that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On Illini. Again, it's Tuesday, it's game day. A lot of fans are on edge, and I appreciate those of you that are on edge because there's a lot of you who have abandoned the team at this point, and I can't tell anybody how to fan, but you know, I've witnessed this team what it looked like 10 years ago, and that was bad. And if I could stick around when times were bad like that, then I'm certainly not going to abandon the team now. It's going to be a good game, I think. A lot of quality basketball players on the court on Tuesday night, and who knows? I talked about in the crossover episode with the Spartans. I told Matt, I was like, hey, if Michigan State wins, this could be kind of a turnaround point for their season. Keep in mind, they were coming off of a loss to Indiana, and they thought their season was essentially over. Why not Illinois? Why not the same exact thing? When everyone is counting this team out, maybe that's when all of a sudden they'll bond together and those threes are going to be falling. And, again, either way, you're going to see a really fun offensive game, I feel like. I just hope it's not just one-sided, with Wisconsin making all those baskets. Again, no matter what happens, make sure you join us in the Discord. The link should be in the description of this channel. We're basically commenting all day, every day, but in particular when the games start. We're basically expressing our feelings, but also just join this channel immediately after the game. We're going to go live and we're going to talk together because we do that after every game. Football, basketball, whatever it takes. I'll be here. Until next time, love you guys.